What's up, everybody? Nick Wire back with you for the 10th inning, giving you another edition of This Day in Sports History. In yesterday's episode, we saw Ty Cobb become the first member of the 1,000 extra base hit club in Major League Baseball. We don't have extra base hits to talk about today, but we have some interesting stuff and history made on this day. So if you all enjoy the video, leave a like on it. If you're new to the channel and you like what you see, hit that subscribe button. Let's get into it. This Day in Sports History. We start out in 1873 and the first Preakness Stakes is run. The Preakness Stakes, you should know what the Preakness Stakes is. You have the Kentucky Derby, Preakness Stakes, Belmont Stakes. Those are unofficially or officially the three biggest horse races in the United States in a calendar year. In my opinion, the Preakness Stakes is the most important, but I'm not going to get into that now. The Preakness Stakes opened up in 1873. Its first race was run, and it was won by Survivor, who won by 10 lengths, the largest margin of victory at the Preakness up until 2004. Moving up to 1938, Don Bradman makes his appearance on this list once again. Bradman scores his 1,000th cricket run of the English season. This was the earliest in a season someone had scored their 1,000th run up to this point. Then we move up 22 years and we switch sports, go to baseball. The Baltimore Orioles catcher Clint Courtney becomes the first catcher to use the big knuckleball glove. The larger mitt had a 45-inch circumference. This helped catch a knuckleball. Courtney was catching Hoyt Wilhelm during the game, who was famously known for the knuckleball. Wilhelm went the distance in Baltimore's 3-2 victory at Yankee Stadium, and it didn't have a wild pitch or a pass ball thanks to the knuckleball mitt. A year later, at the first edition of the European Cup Winners' Cup, Fiorentina defeated the Glasgow Rangers 4-2, or on some accounts 4-1. This was the only time that the final was played over two legs, so two different games on two different days. Fiorentina won both games, ending up with the victory. Staying in 1961, Ralph Boston set a world long jump record at 27 feet and 1/2 inches. And then we have the French Championship in 1961, which saw Manuel Santana defeat Nicola Pietrangeli 4-6, 6-1, 3-6, 6-0, 6-2 in 5 sets. This would be Santana's first French Championship victory and his first major out of 4 single major titles. Moving to the women's side, Ann Hayden defeated Yola Ramirez 6-2, 6-1 in straight sets for her first French championship, her first of 3 major single titles. 3 years later, the 1964 European Cup, Internazionale defeated Real Madrid 3-1 to get their first title. Sandro Mazzola of Internazionale scored in the 43rd and the 76th minute, with Aurelio Milani scoring in the 61st, giving them their 3 goals. And for Real, Felo actually scored in the 7th minute. They had an early 1-0 lead. As we know, though, it was tied 1-1 going into half after Mazzola's first goal. Then Internazionale scored 2 more goals in the second half, securing their victory. In 1968, we saw one of the greatest head coaches in NFL history, if not the greatest head coach in NFL history, officially retire from the game. George Halas at that time was the winningest coach in NFL history. Don Shula since passed him, but Halas finished with 318 regular season wins, 6 NFL titles. He was also one of the co-founders of the league. He's a huge part in the founding of the league's history, and in 1968, he finally hung him up and retired from the game. In 1968, Major League Baseball finally expanded to outside of just the United States, as Montreal was called upon as an expansion location. San Diego was also awarded an expansion location, and not that that's not a big deal, but it's in the United States. Montreal, in Canada, first location of a major league organization outside of the United States for baseball. At the 23rd edition of the Walker Cup in 1971, the Britain/Ireland team finally defeated the United States 13-11. This was their first win since 1938. They really came together on day 2 of this tournament, where they won the afternoon singles 6-2 to finally put them over the United States for the first time since 1938. A year later in 1972, Mark Donahue won his first Indianapolis 500 title. At the 1975 edition of the Stanley Cup Finals, the Philadelphia Flyers were looking for back-to-back titles going up against the Buffalo Sabres. They defeated the Sabres in Game 6 2-0 for a 4-2 series win. The Flyers took the first 2 games of the series, then lost the next 2, won the final 2. In Game 6, Bob Kelly scored 11 seconds into the first period, and then Bill Clement scored with 2 minutes and 47 seconds remaining in the third period to give them their 2 goals. They held the Sabres to 0 goals, shutout, and a Stanley Cup championship. At the Indianapolis 500 in 1979, Rick Mears won his first of 4 titles. In 1981, at the 25th edition of the European Cup, Liverpool defeated Real Madrid 1-0. Alan Kennedy scored a goal in the 82nd minute to give Liverpool their 3rd European Cup victory. In 1984 at the Indianapolis 500, seems like we just talked about him, Rick Mears wins again, getting his 2nd of 4 Indianapolis 500 wins. In 1987 at the 31st European Cup, Porto defeated Bayern Munich 2-1. Bayern got an early lead with a 25th minute goal by Ludwig Kolb. Then Porto scored in the 77th minute after a Rabah Madjer goal, and then in the 80th minute with a Dwari goal. 1990 saw the 74th edition of the Indianapolis 500 being run, and Ari Lurendick won Indy 500 title. This one's kind of an interesting fact right here. In 1990, Rick Russell became one of only 2 pitchers joining Frank Tanaka to allow home runs to both Hank Aaron and Barry Bonds, the 2 home run leaders in MLB history. In 1994 at the NHL Eastern Conference Finals, the New York Rangers defeated the New Jersey Devils in 7 games, winning 4-3. In Game 7, they won 2-1 in double overtime, with the Rangers scoring in the second, the Devils scoring with 8 seconds remaining in the game, forcing it to overtime. That's when Stephane Mathieu scored almost 5 minutes into double OT to get the series victory for the Rangers, move them to the Stanley Cup. At the 1997 edition of the Indianapolis 500, Ari Lurendick wins again, winning his 2nd Indianapolis 500 trophy. In 1997, Ken Griffey Jr. breaks his own Major League mark for the most home runs hit through May when he goes deep for the 23rd time of the season in an 11-10 loss to Minnesota. The previous record by him was in 1994. 3 years later, he broke his own record with his 23rd home run. At the NHL Western Conference Final in 2000, the Dallas Stars were going up against the Colorado Avalanche. The Stars ended up winning 4-3. The Stars got up to a 3-0 lead after 2 periods in the final game. Then the Avalanche fought back, scoring 2 goals within the first 9 minutes of the third period. That was all they would end up scoring, though. Wouldn't be enough at the end of the day. At the Indianapolis 500 in 2001, Helio Castroneves won his first of 3 Indy 500 titles. At the NHL Western Conference Final in 2006, the Edmonton Oilers ended up defeating the Anaheim Ducks in 5 games, 4-1. The Oilers won the first 3 games, couldn't get the sweep, they lost 6-3, but they won Game 5. The Ducks scored in the first period, but the Oilers scored 2 goals in the second period, which would prove to be enough, move them on to the final. Also in 2006, at the Super Rugby Final, the Canterbury Crusaders retained their title, win 2 in a row, with a 19-12 victory over the Wellington Hurricanes. Dan Carter kicked 4 penalties and a conversion for the Crusaders' 6th title and their 2nd consecutive. In 2007 at the Indianapolis 500, Dario Franchitti wins his first title out of 3 overall Indianapolis 500s. Then in 2008, we almost saw history be made. It wouldn't end up being that way though. With a 44-0 record and needing just 1 more win to become the first undefeated team in NCAA baseball history, Trinity College loses to Johns Hopkins 4-3. This loss would set up a winner-take-all in the Division III World Series, in which Trinity scored a pair of runs in the bottom of the 9th to win the game 5-4 and get the national championship. In 2009, at the UEFA Champions League final, Barcelona was going up against Manchester United. Barcelona would defeat Man U 2-0, winning their first treble, and this would be the first Spanish treble of La Liga. Samuel Eto'o scored in the 10th minute, and then Lionel Messi scored in the 70th minute for the 2 goals for Barcelona to defeat Man U. 2 years later, at the NHL Eastern Conference Final, the Boston Bruins defeated the Tampa Bay Lightning in 7 games, 4-3. This was a back and forth series the whole way, but in Game 7, Nathan Horton scored 12.5 minutes into the third period for the series-winning goal, moving Boston forward. In 2012, the Indianapolis 500 and the IPL cricket final were on the same day. For the Indy, Dario Franchitti wins his third and final Indianapolis 500. Then at the IPL final, the Kolkata Knight Raiders beat the Chennai Super Kings by 5 wickets, giving them their first IPL title. In 2015, we already saw the Cleveland Cavaliers make it to the finals. Now we're seeing the Golden State Warriors moving on to the finals when they defeated the Rockets in Game 5 after a 104-90 victory. In the 2007 FA Cup, Arsenal defeated Chelsea 2-1 with Aaron Ramsey scoring his 79th minute game winner. In the 4th minute of the game, Alexis Sanchez scored for Arsenal, putting them on the board, and then in the 76th minute, it got tied up. Diego Costa scored the equalizer, but then Ramsey scored 3 minutes later, giving Arsenal the goal they needed, giving them the victory. Also in 2017, the Baseball Hall of Fame inducts fictional character Homer Simpson as part of the celebration of the 25th anniversary of Homer at the Bat. Finally in 2018, the Indianapolis 500 and the IPL cricket final were on the same day once again. At the Indy, Will Powers becomes the first Australian driver to win the event. And then in cricket, the Chennai Super Kings defeated the Sunrisers Hyderabad by 8 wickets. This would be the Super Kings' 3rd IPL title. So there you have it. That's what happened on this day in sports history. If I left anything out, let me know down in the comment section. For Nick O'Dwyer and the 10th inning, stay safe. See ya.